Welcome to the American Landscape. Thanks for watching. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. On this episode, we're on the road to Kingsburg, California in California's Central Valley. It's just 89 miles from Bakersfield, 22 miles from Fresno, and 189 miles from Sacramento. We're here to see some historic reenactors to tell us about their historic depot, which was saved from destruction a few years ago. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. One country, 50 states, and many roads. It's all about the American road trip. So please join me, and together we'll visit roadside attractions, fascinating museums, unique landmarks, and offbeat points of interest.
Hi, welcome to the Wrigley Mansion. Come on in.
Welcome to the Museum of the Forgotten Warrior.
But most importantly, we'll experience the inspiring people and grandeur of the American landscape. Hi.
Well, good morning.
How you doing? Looks like you're ready for a journey.
I am. I'm Dr. Flora Smith.
Well,
I'm
nice
the
to meet you.
woman doctor here. This is our station agent,
How you
Mr.
doing?
Miller. He's
Hi,
going to
Mr.
take my
Miller.
luggage for me.
Oh, okay. I was ready to grab one for you. Looks like
Yeah.
you got your doctor bag. You're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. We'll be going up to Sacramento today to see
Sacramento.
Governor Stevens.
Is he ill?
No, actually, I'm the advisor for women and children issues for California.
Really?
And our
Nice.
office is just down the street. My husband and I have a surgery here in Kingsburg. We're both doctors.
Nice. How long is it going to take you on the rail to get to Sacramento?
Oh, it'll take me about 3 hours today, maybe 4,
Oh, wow.
depending on how things go.
Okay. All
So
right.
I'll have to send him a telegraph after I make sure what time that train's actually going to be leaving and arriving.
Okay, well, let's help you and get you on your journey here.
Well, thank you very
right.
much.
What I just saw, is that typical of travel, and what time period are we in?
We're in 1923, and yes, this is very typical of travel. You would come down to the train station, the station agent would go through the timetable, they would tell you when your train would be going, and they would give you a brochure so you would know exactly what cities you're going through.
And then what you were doing, sir, with the stand or the punching the hole. Now, somebody on the train is going to punch another hole to
Yes.
show that, and all that's just to keep track that you actually have the ticket.
And that has been validated and paid for.
And if you didn't, at some point, you get a boot out the door, moving or not moving.
We're asked to pay while the train is in motion.
And so somebody could jump on the train and you could pay in motion if
Yes.
They would accommodate you. They took your ticket with your name and put it above your seat, so they knew that was your seat.
Interesting.
Another thing that happened here at the depot, I could come down to our clerk's office and I could order out of the Sears and Roebuck catalog, pay them, then they would take my order and it would arrive here. So the women in this town, the new thing in 1923 was getting a new washing machine. And it was electric. So one of the things that happened in 1923 is we've got electricity.
Oh, I see.
So that was a huge plus.
So was Kingsburg a big city at the time, or I don't want to say was it an important city, but how did it factor into the California system? Obviously it's on the rail, and the rail is the backbone of the country and the state right now for travel, right?
That's correct. So you know the Big Five. They made the Transcontinental Railroad. They also made this rail line.
Oh, okay.
And we are one of the stations on their rail line. And so being in the Central Valley, the wheat came here to be shipped. Any fruit that was grown was shipped. So it was a very important station. So it wasn't just the passenger travel. Even in 1923, the freight travel was more important than the passenger travel.
What was the cost of her ticket today?
The cost of the ticket to Sacramento is $1.73.
And what was an average person making in a day, do you know?
Well, good wage was 10 cents an hour,
Okay.
so
So affordable, but you had to save a little bit.
You had to save.
Yeah. A person such as yourself in your position, would your salary be a little better? You're in charge of the whole depot, I take it?
yeah, I grew up in Missouri and I came to California looking for a new life. I met the daughter of the general store manager in Layton, a neighboring city, and we married. We have 3 children. I work for the railroad, which is a very stable job with medical benefits since the railroad has their own hospital in San Francisco. And I represent the railroad to the community and represent the community to the railroad, so I'm kind of an ambassador for transportation.
And then how many people would work for you to run the
We
place?
have 7 here that I employ.
So let's talk about how we got here, and I really love the in-character stuff. Dave Meyer, the Historic Society here in Kingsburg, introduced me to you all and told me about the depot. So can we get some background on how it got restored and saved?
So this was one of my favorite places as a boy growing up in Kingsburg. And when I heard that they planned to tear it down, it hurt me. So I got together a group of citizens who cared about the future of the place and saw that it was once, the depot was once the heart of the city, other than our churches and our city hall. This was a natural gathering place for citizens. So a lot of activity here every day. We had this place declared a state historical landmark.
Nice.
And that protected it from destruction, even though the railroad company at that time wanted to tear the building down.
What year was that?
I'm sorry, it still belonged to the railroad at the time?
Yes, in 1984.
1984.
So in 1988, they announced plans to tear down the building, and they tore down 17 other depots along this line during that time. And we contacted the railroad and told them that we wished to save the building. And nothing was done. It was very difficult because they did not want the building this close to the tracks. So it took a while, and then the railroad sold to Union Pacific Railroad. And they worked with us, gave us the building, allowed us to repair it.
No, they gave the building to the city, correct?
Yes,
So are both the lines I see out here active?
yes, they are.
Okay. Now, how much of the interior was intact, and how much did you have to do, like, bring in to make it still look like the day?
All of the interior was intact. It was all labeled and removed when the building was stabilized for earthquake safety, and then reassembled like a big puzzle.
So like one day, the train lines decides we're not operating, they walk out, close the doors, left everything.
Yes.
That's amazing. And it didn't really get overly vandalized, it was just ignored?
Well, a lot of broken windows,
Well, the typical stuff, yeah.
a lot of
They-
animals
Yeah.
came into the building.
So the whole downstairs, from the smoking room all the way to the freight room, is all original. The floors are original. In fact, they had like a linoleum over this, and they took that off to come to their original floor. And so one of the things that Larry didn't say is, as citizens, they had to raise,
Oh yeah, how
how much money did you have to raise?
$2.1 million.
2.1 million, wow, and was it just local donations?
Actually, it was mostly local. We have a few corporations. There is a donor wall that I'll show you later.
Okay.
About $1 million from private sources, and about $1.1 million from a federal grant.
That's amazing.
And then we had this 2 students that were at that time in 2nd and 4th grade. And it was around October, and they decided they wanted to help raise money. So they got Del Monte Cannery to make them cans, and they made a label, and they put these labels on them, and they gave them to all the kids in school, put them in all the businesses for people to put their change in. How much money did the Roman children?
About $27,000.
No way.
Yes,
That's
and
that
so
is
then Barnum and
fantastic.
Bailey, the circus,
Yeah.
they have a award system that they give to student volunteers. These 2 kids got that award, and how much was that award?
I think it was $2,000.
and they donated that.
That's great. Another great reenactment. You guys are pros at this now. So this is typical. A lot of people send messages, Western Union in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
It was the
original
only
email.
form of electrical message.
Okay, and then you always see this in the movies. You put it through that sticker, that pole or whatever. Is there an accounting later that you go through to make sure you charge 17 cents or 17 cents in the till? I mean, what?
After the end of the shift, everything has to balance. You have to have money to show what you sent.
And then you send money off to Western Union
Yes.
because you've used their system?
There's several businesses that are associated with a railroad that are not railroad businesses. The Western Union Telegram System is one of those businesses. It was the communications hub of your city, besides being the transportation hub of your city as well.
Now, I've seen a few telephones, like there's really cool with the telescoping arm in the back. Could someone come and make a phone call and pay for it?
If there was an emergency, the railroad would permit the community to use the telephone.
Interesting. And when did telephones arrive here?
On the railroad, because they were part of the business operation, they arrived at about 1900. About 13 years before the first residents in Kingsburg had a telephone. So people knew that the only telephone in town was at the railroad depot. And they would come down here in an emergency and make a call for emergency services and
Okay.
then go to the hospital.
Now, could you make contact with a moving train, or was it just depot to depot, or another building in Sacramento or somewhere? How's that communication work?
Radio did not come into effect on the railroads until the late 1920s. So before that time, in 1923, which we illustrate here, the way we communicated with the train was the dispatcher had to know where trains were on the system to keep two trains on the same line from running into one another. And the way they did that is the train had to have a legal order to occupy the track they were on and be traveling in the direction that they were traveling. And that piece of paper was called a flimsy. Looked like this. We would receive an order here on the telegraph, quickly type up two copies, put it on that stick behind you, go out to the track and hold it up. Two copies, one for the front of the train and one for the back. They would read their order and know what to do next.
So I see a mailbag here. When they stopped, obviously they could throw it off or whatever, but did you ever have the hooks where they just drove by and
Yeah.
they grabbed it?
Yes.
Or drove by, you know?
The mail came in the morning, the bag was tossed off, we brought it in for safekeeping, and the postal employees came and retrieved the bag and sorted the mail. And in the evening, they dropped off the mail bag here locally. We would tie it on a post out next to the track, and we would observe it until it was picked up by the passing train. And they had a car on the train called a rail post office. They actually began sorting mail en route.
That's on the, people just don't, have no idea sometimes, I think, what it took to get mail and how many, I don't know, people are interacting and did it, but how important too, again, here's the agent guarding the mail, which could have, next to anything in it, money, important messages, so I keep seeing more and more the importance and the prestige of this position that you have here.
All mail was handled by train until 1967.
That
And
way.
it provided about 1/3 of the revenue to keep passenger trains running. When the government in 1967 decided to take mail off of trains, that more than anything else killed passenger rail to most of the country, because 1/3 of the revenue was gone.
This is our loading area, as you can see. So we have some Oreos.
They go back a ways.
It was one of the first year Oreos came out. Oh, wow. And so our general store, which you will see later over at the historical park, 'Has those Oreos. And then you can see there are people who are shipping bigger items for their home, they come in trunks.
So you said earlier if you were going a long ways, you need a trunk to be something like this.
I would do a trunk like this. It's called the wardrobe trunk. It actually has hangers and drawers and everything in it.
Oh,
so it's very convenient. You get to wherever you're going and you have your own closet.
Sure.
If I was going to be shipping my china to my granddaughter, it would go in a round one because it's not a wardrobe. It is definitely for storage. A square one is often a wardrobe.
Okay.
So that's kind of a difference. You can see we have a scale here. This is one of the scales that we use. Everything is weighed and you pay by the weight and then the miles.
And how many men, I know there's a cart here, but these are big. It's not something the average guy's just gonna bend over and grab both ends. There must have been multiple guys.
There were multiple men in here working. And this is only the loading area for passenger stuff.
Okay, so you may have other stuff that's not going on the next train. So all the
Correctly.
passengers are here and the freight somewhere else?
The freight is up in the freight room.
Except for maybe the washer that came
The
in?
washing machine came in and we put it there for Mrs. Johnson because she's been asking every day.
Got a little dusty on the train, huh?
It did, it got a little dusty. She's not gonna be happy. I'll make sure our station master dusts it before she comes. But everyone was so excited. And she had said, when it comes, open it up. So we have it open.
So someone had, you had the, is that?
This
I'm
one
looking at
is
the-
electric. And so even though it has the rollers, like a wringer washing machine, I don't have to crank it anymore.
Oh, so
It's
first
electric.
it's going in the big
Goes
pot.
in the tub here,
When it's done,
has the agitator, and then she's gonna load it through here, and it's gonna squeeze all the water out.
so it doesn't have a spin cycle. That's the spin
This
cycle.
is your spin cycle. Yes. We're going to go up and see Mrs. Miller today. She's invited us.
All right.
This is their apartment. It's very convenient. They have an outside door. I'll let her know that we're coming.
We're heading up. Wow. Quite a doorbell you got.
Mrs. Miller, thank you so much for inviting us into your house.
Welcome.
So, this is the station agent's house.
Nice.
One of the things I know Mrs. Miller's very excited about is they now have a bathroom here.
Indoor plumbing.
They have indoor plumbing and a bathtub. So she's pretty excited.
I am. Would you like to see our bedroom, children's room, and the agent's
Yeah, I'd love to see the
bedroom?
rest of the house.
Would you
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
see the rest
please.
of the house?
So this would be kind of typical of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you need to remember, more than one child would sleep in a bed. So Mr. and Mrs. Miller could have a couple of their children in this bed.
I see, especially if they're small, they just
Right.
stack them up, right?
And then they had the playroom.
The playroom was literally that corner.
It was that corner, these two little corners.
I noticed the
And
beds are really low.
They are. Yes, a typical bed is actually low. Those tall Victorian beds were actually from the Victorian period.
I see.
And then the 20s, this is an actual 1920s bed.
Now, again, on the restoration side of this, how far did you have to go? What was the condition of this upper space?
This upper space was the worst. All the windows were broken and birds had taken over. And so they had to go through, we took pictures so we would know where different rooms were, what it was look like. Then they started taking parts out. So all the electrical features were in here. These are the actual push button. This is a 1920 wood floor that would have been from Sears and Roebuck. And then the walls are done correctly. The paint scheme is the Union Pacific paint scheme.
Okay, because it was company.
It was company housing, so yeah, you didn't get the choice. You had to live with it.
So then this is the kids' room. There's like a master bedroom.
There is. There's a
if you
master
will.
bedroom, and so these two rooms kind of changed. If there was only a station master and his wife, they would have taken this as their bedroom instead of the children's room. And the reason why is, you know, if the train came by and it should, station master can look out his bedroom window, right?
Sure.
But if they had children, this room became the children's room. And the reason for that is the heating.
I see.
And so you wouldn't want the children to be in a room where they had the stove that heated this room.
Sure.
So this often, if it was either a single station agent or one with just a wife, then this would be a dining room. And we had one agent who was in here, had a dining room table, and we happened to know that they were playing poker because the cards were out. The pictures in this room are actually Mr. and Mrs. Miller's actual pictures. Their family has come and had a family reunion here.
How nice.
I was fortunate to know one of their sons, and we've met two of the daughters and several of the grandchildren. So this room is very typical. This would have been the modern sewing machine at that time. If you notice, this one is electric. It does not have the pedals.
See, I have one of those, but mine is a pedal driven.
Right, so this is why it's in the 1920s, is because it was electric, brand new electricity.
And an iron, is that an iron right next to it?
Yes, and she went from the stovetop iron to this lovely electric irons.
Now, I also noticed, typical of the day, no closets, but a wardrobe.
Yes, we have a wardrobe. And closets were not part of a house at that point. Well, thank you for inviting us into your kitchen for some lemonade on a hot day like this. It's certainly needed.
It's hitting the spot.
It is.
And please help yourself to strawberries or a Swiss roll,
Thank you.
some
Taffy?
taffy.
Now, is this typical of the day, kind of what would have been made and shared in this kind of situation?
So when Mrs. Miller has anyone upstairs, this is very typical of what we're going to see. Usually some of our fresh products from farmers. Often a farmer would drop something off at the station agent and his wife.
This is mainly a farming community.
It was a farming community, yes. And so you can see on her shelves, her pantry shelves, we have Del Monte products because the Del Monte cannery was just right outside.
I see.
And then she's got the Hot Point oven and stove.
I like
Again,
that brand
electric.
is still around, Hot Point, you see that. Now, obviously, this building was here before electric, so did they have a big cast iron stove up here?
There was a cast iron stove at one point, but when they put electricity in, they modernized the appliances.
Sure.
The only one that did not get modernized, of course, was the ice box.
I noticed that when I walked
Yes,
in here, yeah.
about 10 years later, they put in the electric ice box. The nice thing about, I think, being the station agent's wife is that the farmers bring produce and eggs up here too.
And I'm sure they didn't just jingle the door and leave it. The heat that we are experiencing today, you wouldn't want to leave fresh milk or anything outside. So you probably got to visit, right? And
Usually,
shared some
yes.
time, yeah. That's nice, that's nice. Now, is this china typical of the time?
It is. This is, you can
It's-
see that it's the Art Deco styling.
It's so it's delicate, it's light.
It's very delicate.
Yeah,
But this is very typical of a pattern you would have seen.
okay.
And then the pots and pans are very typical. One of the neat things, if you don't mind, I'm going to show them a couple of your events. This is actually a toaster. And so you put your toast in on either side and then you shut it. And then again, it's electric.
Now, have you ever tried that?
We have 3 of them and I'm afraid to try them. Now my husband, who is an electrician, he probably will.
I'm thinking that might toast a little better than our pop-up, which never seems to get it quite right.
No, and it gets, and then so that side's down, you open it up, you flip your side, you shut
do
it,
again, okay,
and then you get the other side done.
I see.
So that was very, very handy. And this you probably don't know. Do you have any idea what this
Let me
is?
think for a second, because I know the one in your left hand looks like, what you might brush some dust into, but the right, it's not going with it.
It does go together, and you are on the right track.
Dustpan?
Yes, so
For
it
crumbs.
is for crumbs.
Crumb pan.
So she would go and get all the crumbs off her
So
table.
what was that called? Not a crumb pan, I'm
This
sure.
is a crumb pan.
It is, wow,
And
what a
this
guess.
is what you would do.
Now, I've never heard of that. Is that typical in the time period?
This was probably given to her by her mom.
Okay. And I noticed, we didn't talk about it before, that all these doors have transoms. It would help move the air through the
It did. So when
building.
you opened up the windows and you had the transom, that's actually how you cooled off up here. Now, one of the things you will want to do is to open up the kitchen and look outside and take a little view, because you wanted to see that coffee pot.
Oh, yes, there it is. Oh. Yeah, we shot here a couple of years ago. Right up there.
So Mrs. Miller actually had a very good view when her curtains were open of everything happening downtown.
Yes. I could see when the milk delivery came, when the iceman was outside and he rang his bell.
It's like, what's Gladys doing out there? Who's that guy she's talking to? You can see everything
Exactly.
going on.
Yes. And you can also understand why women were so excited to be invited to tea with Mrs. Miller, because then they too could look out the windows.
And maybe be seen being
Being
entertained,
seen,
right?
yes.
So very important position here in town.
Yes, the station agent's wife and the station agent themselves were very important people in the town.
You guys do a great job, by the way. This is really wonderful. You've really done a nice thing here. And every Wednesday you're open. Is that
We're
right?
open from 9 till noon every Wednesday.
And if someone, I'm sure the locals all know this, but anybody outside, if for some reason a group wanted to come here and experience this, you know, some train enthusiasts, you guys could do the big dressed up and
Yes.
interactive thing?
So we have a website with a lot of information for educators and for train enthusiasts. On the website is our phone number that you can call. You can call and make a reservation for a tour. And when you make that reservation, we ask, do you want reenactors or not?
Nice.
Sometimes they just want the station master, and that's fine. Sometimes they want everyone. We do school tours for homeschool, for public schools, private schools. Just call and make a reservation with us. We'd appreciate that. And that is, everyone will be in their 1923 persona, and they'll be ready to show you what 1923 looked like at the Kingsburg Historic Depot.
That's great. And what is the website?
It is www.kingsburgdepot.org.
Awesome. Easy to remember? Goes right with the location?
Goes right with the location.
All right. Well, thank you very much again, and I do really appreciate it. And for all you road trippers that follow the American landscape all over the country, you got to come up to Kingsburg. Don't just go by on the 99. Stop in. There's a lot of things to do in this little town.